everybody. It's so nice to see you. Today we're going to focus on the Disney report yesterday. There's a lot of stuff going on with Disney. No huge headlines, well, kind of, but nothing that was really attention-grabbing that came out of yesterday's quarterly report, which was kind of a headline in and of itself. So today's live stream is going to be myself breaking down what's going on with the Disney company right now. It's really crazy because you never would have thought that Disney would run into these types of problems, and yet here they are. It's almost like a bigger situation of what's happening with Marvel. So we're going to have a great time going over this. This is a different type of stream. There aren't really stories today, so I think every once in a while I'll open it up to questions, like as we go through the sections, and of course at the end we'll do the you can ask me anything portion of the live stream. But thanks for joining me. Ibrahim feels good about Disney, bought more Disney shares today. Well, let's see. I think a number of us bought some Disney stock during the pandemic when they were doing real well, and it never has quite lived up to that exciting first few months of the pandemic. I'm glad you guys all like my shirt. This is my Ferrari shirt. I got it at the Ferrari store, and I wore it because I filmed my Gran Turismo review earlier, and that will go up this evening. But yeah, so let's go through this. Thank you all very much for the compliments. All right. I love you called it a jumper, Wade. That's so UK of you. All right, let's get going. All right, so what's going on with Disney? Well, first of all, I think you're witnessing the fall of Bob Iger. Who'd have thought it could ever happen? He seemed as Teflon as Kevin Feige. But now you're seeing photos of himself around like that. There are certain channels on the YouTube which always have these photos of, sometimes they make them up, but then sometimes also they have photos, of someone being sad or upset or worried, right? I mean, everybody does that a little bit, but I think it's really come into the mainstream, especially because, Aubrey says Bob Iger deserves it. It's funny you say that because I told someone yesterday, I was like, Bob Iger sure was unhappy on that investor call. And my friend was like, good. And I was like, whoa. My friend was like, he's running Disney into the ground, man. And I was like, oh, that's rough, okay? And my friend is usually quite positive. So I was surprised at that. That looks to me like a paparazzi photo. That's funny, Heather. That's right. He's gone from, I was trying to think of what to call him instead of Daddy Iger, and Deadbeat Dad Iger is pretty funny, Heather. But that's hilarious. So anyway, I bet the paparazzi's hounding him now ever since he made that horrible tone-deaf comment about unrealistic demands during the strike. Billy Porter hit him again yesterday. We're going to talk about residuals and compensation tomorrow in tomorrow's live stream. I was like, I have to do tomorrow's live stream early. So I was like, what are we going to talk about? And we're going to do a hardcore residuals breakdown tomorrow early in the day. It's going to be very businessy. So anyway, he has all these pictures now where he's like, just leave me alone, man. And then also his tone on the call. I used that picture of Scrooge McDuck from A Christmas Carol, Bah Humbug. And he just seemed very dejected on the call yesterday. Usually he's upbeat. He's Daddy Iger. You can hear the sweater in his voice, right? He's gotten it's hot right now, but he's not even trying to be wholesome. And he just really seemed like he was feeling the hurt, and he was like, he's not enjoying himself anymore. Now, of course, Bob Chapek, another Bob, did a lot of problems, caused a lot of problems, but at the same time, while he and Chapek ended on very poor terms, Bob Iger did pick Bob Chapek to run the company after him. He was his hand-picked successor. So he bears some culpability for how things went down. Then also, I think this cultural war is really weighing on him. I think that Disney used to be a place that was beloved by everybody, and now it seems everybody's got a problem with them. Also, his comments on the strike did not help either. In fact, I think that really put the focus on him. Before that, everybody felt that maybe Bob Iger could fix things and bring things back to the way they once were. After his strike comments, I think he became the face of that, everybody forgot about Bob Chapek. Everybody forgot about David Zaslav. And Bob Iger became the face of corporate greed, with everybody talking about how much he makes in a day. I think Billy Porter pegged it at $78,000 a day. Bye, Drago. Have fun at the movie. But it was just, it was probably one of the worst, PR moves I think anybody has ever seen. And where is Bob Iger's publicist? Why didn't Bob Iger's publicist stop him from saying that in the first place? And why didn't Bob Iger's publicist say to him, you got to sound more upbeat on this call, Bob, because you sound awful and everyone's going to be like, whoa, he's really doing poorly. Gareth, thank you for gifting 10 memberships. And Dancing Dog 60, I forgot to thank you. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships before the stream started. But I just thought, every single quarterly report, Bob Iger has traditionally had a big, exciting announcement. Now, of course, he can't make an exciting announcement about a movie or something or a TV show because of the strike. But he could have announced something exciting about the theme park experiences. I mean, maybe he felt that would come across as not very good because of what's going on right now. But who cares? I mean, he needs to have a positive spin on this call. It was so doom and gloom. And I'm surprised that he didn't think of asking somebody to give him something to say. And I'm surprised that somebody who works for him wasn't like, here's some positive things to put into the call. Why didn't he talk about Elemental rallying? I don't really feel Elemental did rally, quite frankly. But they're trying to spin it that it has. So I don't understand why he didn't try and talk about that and say it's going to be on digital next Tuesday, guys. Get excited. Watch it. So I thought that was very odd. All right, so let's now talk about the current state of the company. And Bob Iger was very frank about it, okay? Bob was very frank. So Bob Iger said, in his opinion, what's going to add the most value to the Disney Corporation in the next 5 years, because remember, they have a cash flow issue. So that's why he's fired so many people. He's really been cutting down on everything. So he said what will add value in the next 5 years are the film studio, theme park experiences. Cruises are on fire, although the domestic Disney World park in particular has not been doing well. They said attendance is down. And where is that? In Florida. And then also streaming. He said streaming. He still feels streaming is the future of this company. I got to tell you, and we're going to talk about this more in depth tomorrow, I think streaming might be one of the worst things actually to ever have happened to Hollywood. It might kill the industry or take it decades to recover. And it's going to significantly affect who goes into the industry for a long time to come. And if I were Bob Iger, I would maybe consider closing down Disney Plus and launching, speaking of Apple, like an iTunes kind of a la carte situation, because this is just a disaster. And he started it. Bob Iger is the one who led the "we want to be like Netflix" charge by launching Disney Plus. It was supposed to be the pinnacle of his career. And I think he might not have only hurt the Disney Corporation, but I think he might have hurt Hollywood as well overall. I feel very strongly about that. And I thought it was a good idea too. But there's no shame in saying oopsie. You don't even have to say oopsie. You just have to change course, man. That's right, Mika. Zazie is saying that this isn't going to work. And I think, I think Zazie's not a very good pitch man. I think Zazie might be right, but I don't think Zazie's going about it in the right way. All right? I don't see Zazie moving to an a la carte system. Also, Heather, Netflix is not a long-term prospect, but Netflix is also a very different business model. They only have one thing that they do, streaming. They don't have television networks. They don't have a movie studio like traditional sense. They don't have any theme parks. They don't have any television networks. They just do one thing. It's a totally different business model. All right, so anyway, he did not mention the TV assets. Bob Iger did not mention, that they added any value to the company, and had even hinted that he might sell them off. We're talking ABC, ESPN, although they just did a big move on ESPN, which we're going to discuss. Some are thinking they might sell off some stuff from the Fox acquisition still. They're not done with that garage sale. They might sell off National Geographic, and I wouldn't blame them. What on earth does National Geographic bring to the Disney portfolio besides being a weird tab that doesn't fit on Disney Plus? And then also even FX to a degree, which is feeding Hulu. I don't really know what the value is in any of those for the company. And so I would consider selling them off personally. I don't think they fit with the Disney portfolio. Maybe if you're going to take a page from Netflix's book, streamline, streamline, streamline. And I don't believe that any of those things bring value. Although maybe they do if you get rid of streaming. If you get rid of Disney Plus, suddenly those things have value again, right? Because they're no longer creating shows for those networks, or cable networks. They're creating shows for Disney Plus. But yet, and I'll just give you a preview of tomorrow's stream, if a show does really well on Disney Plus, it does not increase the revenue of the service whatsoever. Not substantially, because it's a subscription is a subscription. Maybe it combats churn, but it doesn't create any extra revenue flow for anybody. So this was really a bad idea. He also said, and I thought this was quite shocking, that he was looking to improve the quality of the movies. He was like, we know they're bad. We know they're not doing well. He's like, I know. And he says he is personally on it. And you're like, okay, And he said he doesn't not only want to work on the quality of the films, but he wants to bring down how much each costs. He's like, they cost too much money. They're too damn expensive. So he wants to work on that as well. So on that note, let's take a look. Does anybody, first of all, before we look at Disney's box office performance so far this year, which used to really, that's right, Heather. Heather, you're on fire today. Pay the writers and the actors. Who do you think makes the movies? He's like, boy, these movies are bad. And you're like, yeah, because the writing sucks, man. All right, so before we go into the next section, which is going to be breaking down Disney, we'll talk about the potential Apple acquisition at the very end. Does anybody have any questions about the state of Disney right now? That's right, Aubrey. He's hiring AI. He's like, I know who will fix this, a machine. Mika says, if Thor Love and Thunder broke Marvel, what broke Disney? I think it was Disney Plus, Mika. I honestly believe it was Disney Plus. It's created such a spend problem for the company and not enough cash flow coming back in that it's been a disaster. And it's totally upended. It hurt Pixar. It hurt Marvel with overextending the brand. It's just ended up being just the worst thing that ever happened. Mo H says, have you seen the third tier for the UK? Oh, we're going to talk about the prices for sure. The price increase is also insane. Gareth says, better writing, less green screen, more variety. I fixed it for you. Haunted Autumn says, but also those writers wrote bad films. Should they get more money? Well, it's not for those writers individually. It's to fix it for just writing in general, and also to make sure that you continue to bring in top-notch talent. If you can't make money working in the entertainment industry, people aren't going to do it. Colby, I don't really know if today's a boop kind of day, but I appreciate you asking. I'll boop just for you. Boop. Alexander Wilson says, Wall Street and analysts like what they said on the call. I heard it was 50-50. The stock's up 4%. That's not doing me any favors. Let's see here. That's right, Jorge. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Or is it Georgie Porgy? That sounds more likely to me. That's great. The writer's room is not the happiest place on earth. 'Tis not. Josh Loves Movies feels Secret Invasion broke Marvel. I don't think that's true. Let me ask you. Start a poll. What broke Marvel? Disney Plus, which is my vote. Quantum Mania. Or Secret Invasion. Oh, let's see who wins. Hold on, I gotta go back here. I'm missing some questions here. Sadie Creekwood says, in your mind, where do you see Disney in 10 years? I hope it's still an independent company, Sadie. We'll talk about the Apple acquisition at the end. Dwight, I haven't heard anything about Kathleen Kennedy. Her contract, she still has like about a little bit less than a year left on it. JLo1972 says, is it public knowledge that what the breakdown of film budgets is? Do we actually know where the money goes? No, you don't really know, because they make up a lot of minute, there's so much detail in it, and they make up a lot of stuff. So, you could get your hands on a budget, but it's Hollywood math is infamous, which is why you never want you never want a cut of the profit. You want to cut on the gross, because by the time they get to the end of things, they're going to claim it never made any money. That's right, Sahil. Disney Plus saved Star Wars, interestingly enough, and it did give us Mando. And Bafe says the theme parks carry all of Disney. Well, they are an integral part of the magic, I would say for sure. Frosty the Mexican Snowman says Disney has fallen. The 2020s are not their decade. I don't know about that. I mean, it's tough. Alberto says, I watched Venom on Disney Plus and it was seriously edited down. Really? Really? I didn't know they were editing things down. That's crazy. The Quasar says, subscription video on demand was never profitable. Well, for some reason it was for Netflix because of the sheer volume. Lucas, congrats on your first super chat. What is the relationship between talent and Disney Plus? It's the same of working for Netflix, or is there still a stigma? There's not a stigma anymore because the Marvel and Star Wars shows were so successful, Lucas. But the problem is there's no money in it unless you get paid up front. And sure, stars make a lot of money off of it to some degree. But, you know, it used to be, as the nanny herself said, everybody used to participate in the gravy train when you had a hit show. That's no longer the case. Georgie Porgy says, I do miss the Disney Vault. It made watching the classics feel like a rare eclipse. I would agree with that. Oh, Sid, I see your question. Your test worked. I would agree with that. I feel like I miss the Disney Vault a lot because it did make it seem more special. Now I'm like, I've seen them. I feel like it's like the other day I wanted to watch a Disney classic movie and I'd feel I'd seen all of them, quite frankly. Luis says, funny how Taika Waititi so arrogantly made fun of the VFX and his movie ended up being one of the hardest blows to Marvel. Yeah, and it hurt his own career. He has not recovered from that. Oddly specific with Audrey says, I thought Multiverse of Madness was the movie at the top of the coaster and it's been steadily downhill since. Yeah, there was real flaws there too. I think that was our first idea that there was something rotten in Denmark where we were like, what's going on over there? They didn't watch what? Big League Shoe says, Disney Plus 1,000%. I believe that they were too ambitious. Feige's dance card was dancing. It's true. Oh, Frosty the Mexican Snowman says it was Thor. JJ Studio says the MCU has been a long death since No Way Home, sadly. Oh, I don't know about, I don't know about that. Multiverse of Madness was very successful. And I thought the first Disney Plus shows were great out of the gate. And Raphael says Marvel's Disney Plus shows were supposed to keep people talking between movies, but with so much talking and so many shows, there's too much talking. And also it's meaningless talking because it doesn't count towards anything. Hawes says that Disney Plus should change its name to Disney Vault and become a hub for all their content. No more original shows or movies. That's not a bad idea, like iTunes, but Disney specific. And then Bruce Wayne is in favor of Apple buying Disney. I'm very much against it, but let's see. All right. Let me just see what the poll is. Let me close the... Hey, welcome back, Jimmy Wetzel. And David says, what happens if future Marvel projects get scrapped and Victoria Alonso still has a producer credit on it? What do you think? I don't know if she would get compensated post the fact. I don't think she has a compensation deal. I don't think Kevin Feige gets compensated per movie. He might get bonuses based on performance, but I don't think he gets compensated per project. Juan Carlos says, have the Disney Plus series on premium video on demand as extended versions. Yeah, you can't even buy them a la carte after the fact or physical copies. Hey, Daniel. And then Polly says the first wave of Disney Plus was great. It was definitely the later shows like Moon Knight that should be movies. And then the last nail was Secret Wars. All right, let me close the poll. I don't want to go on for too long here. I want to keep going. All right, so hold on. The poll says overwhelmingly agreeing with me with Disney Plus at 63%. Quantum Mania, 25%, but only 10% of you voted for Secret Invasion. Yeah, I think that might have been the final straw, but I think everybody knew there were serious problems before that. All right, let's move on to some stuff with the 2023 box office, because Bob Iger pointed to that specifically as a problem. All right, so I got some graphics for you here. This is just the domestic, unfortunately. I couldn't find a chart. I guess I could have written it up like I did the Pixar movies in just a moment, but I didn't have the opportunity to do so. But here's the domestic chart so far for 2023. Guardians of the Galaxy is like the only bright spot really for the year, with 358.9 domestic, and as we all know, it's around 800 million overall for the worldwide. So Guardians still performed nicely. Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid, as you can see, 297.1 isn't bad domestic. Where The Little Mermaid really had a problem was overseas. The movie couldn't get to even $600 million, whereas every other Renaissance live-action adaptation has been a billion-dollar film. So that's been very unfortunate for Disney. That was supposed to be a big one for them. No talk about restructuring Disney live action, which I think clearly from this list is just as much trouble as Marvel and Lucasfilm and the animation studios. Ant-Man and the Wasp, of course, ended up being a huge dud, as we all know. Just a abysmal box office. Indiana Jones also could not deliver, even though the last one did so well. You know, it was like about over a decade ago, but still, that could have performed. These should be, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy, The Little Mermaid, and Indiana Jones should have been all billion-dollar pictures. All three of those movies, if the studios were operating as they were supposed to, they should have been billion-dollar films. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp, because the Ant-Man's never been a big thing, I don't think that would have been a billion. But I do feel that Indiana Jones, The Little Mermaid, and Guardians should have either been billion-dollar pictures or have been very, very close, like Multiverse of Madness was. But they're not. Then everyone's saying, you know, Elemental is not going to lose money. And it did do better than Lightyear. Lightyear did about little like somewhere in the $200 million range worldwide, which is so bad. And both the main creatives on that were fired, even though they've been with Pixar since the beginning, since day one, which is pretty shocking, although Lightyear was that much of a flop. But then Elemental pulled in 423 so far worldwide. And they're like, hey, pretty good. But, you know, and you might say, well, it's an original. It's a new original Pixar film, Grace. It's not going to do as well as Toy Story 3 or 4. Well, I looked up other recent original Pixar movies, and you can see it's still grossly underperformed. Even though I loved Elemental, comes out on Tuesday on digital, you should definitely watch it. It's so good. So Elemental did 423.3. The last non-pandemic Pixar original was Coco. Look at that, 796.9 million worldwide. That's incredible. That's amazing. That's almost $800 million for that movie. Inside Out did crack 800 million. No wonder Bob Iger insisted on a Inside Out 2. 850 for a movie about how people think, which I feel got it wrong. And that did 850. That's just incredible. And then Brave underperformed at 554.6, but still better than Elemental. That never got a sequel, as many of us know. Up, such a depressing movie, 731.4. That's incredible. Then Wall-E did 532.5, also a little low, but you know, that's not really a sequel type movie anyway. And then even Ratatouille, and that was a long time ago. So there's been inflation since then, 626.5. So Elemental is still way below where Disney should be operating. And so that's a major dilemma for the company. So I think that's, you know, Bob Iger can see that the company is just not performing the way it's supposed to. I feel, what would fix this? Okay, I'll talk about what I feel would fix it. If I were like Bob Iger, I would fire a mass number of people. He's already firing a lot of people who work at the company, but he's not firing very many of the higher up executives. I feel maybe not Marvel just yet, because Kevin Feige has, you know, he delivered a decade's worth of amazing content and remade the industry. And also, you know, Bob Iger did trip him up with Disney Plus, to be fair. But I would replace Kathleen Kennedy, and I would replace the head of Disney Live Action. I would also replace the head of Pixar, and I would replace the head of Disney Animation. I feel all of these executives need to be swapped out. And then because I swapped out everybody but Kevin Feige, I hope that would show a very strong sign to him that he potentially would be next to go as well. You can't call up John Lasseter, Mika, because he sexually assaulted people and did not promote women or people of color within his business environment. So he can't come back. And also John Lasseter, it's not like he thrived since he left. But I mean, there's somebody out there. Somebody can do this, but you know, you have to just go find them. And there's no shame. And if someone, only give people year-long contracts. And if they're not delivering, get rid of them. Daniel says, why do Disney and Pixar animation films cost $200 million while Sony and Paramount animation costs 70 to 10? Well, it might be that you know, there's more overhead because they have a more prestigious facility. There might be more people working on it. A lot of Disney animation is done in the United States, whereas a lot of Sony and Paramount, they farm it out to outside companies or outside studios. So, they might not pay as well, but that might be part of the issue. Thank you, Carlo. But yeah, I would just, and also I would have to say, I think that Disney has the priorities incorrect. I think that Disney, as you all know, I believe very strongly in representation. I believe that everybody who watches movies should see themselves in movies. Now, they don't need to see themselves in every movie, right? I don't need a female lead movie in every single film I see. But if Disney's entire slate didn't have any female characters, I'd be very upset about it, right? So I think I think they need to stop looking at every movie as a microcosm, and they need to look at the year as a microcosm. They need to say, okay, what's my year slate look like? Do I have everybody up there? Okay, I do. And then also, I think you need to really pay attention to story. Story is incredibly important. I think that Disney really has been wanting a pat on the back for doing good. They're like, look who we did. We did good by everybody. And you're like, did you? Because the things flopped so poorly, you actually hurt the representation for those groups. So I think that's really bad. I think they should be focusing on, I agree with Dwight, that story is the most important. I think they really need to demand that their talent deliver. There are writers who have been rehired across the board, and writers who have not delivered at other studios who inexplicably get hired by Disney. Disney will hire writers and directors, and we as the fans and people who watch this stuff will look at it and go, I can already tell that this person is not a person that you should have hired to do this. And that's really an issue. I think Kevin Feige has gone real cheap on talent, and he's hiring people who don't have the experience to deliver, and he had too much faith in the Marvel machine to do it for them. He's like, I'm just going to plug them in. Oh, yeah, that's a good point, Mika. Stop testing movies within the company. It hasn't plugged any leaks, and clearly the people who work for the company are too afraid to say anything. Although I've heard some of the feedback on some of the movies was pretty harsh. So they were willing to say stuff. And Dwight, that's a good thing as well. Don't hire people who aren't fans of the IP. Sometimes you definitely want different voices in there. But I think that, you want to make sure that it's not working against the brand. The brand is successful for a reason. You don't want, same thing that Kathleen Kennedy made that mistake. She was like, I'm going to reinvent Star Wars. And everybody was like, why would you reinvent Star Wars? It was weird. She changed everything about what Star Wars was, but they kept telling the same stories over again. You're like, what? So this is just a weak sauce, a New Hope? And they were like, exactly. And that was Bob Iger's idea, by the way, that he signed off of. When I was watching The Force Awakens, I was like, they just remade A New Hope. This is ridiculous. And they allowed Harrison Ford to have his character killed off. I'd be like, you don't get to decide, Harrison Ford. Shut up and take your money and go home then, And they did that intentionally because they were too afraid of rocking the boat. And while it worked initially, it just was a very faulty foundation to build on. So let's see what happens. And Green says, frankly, I don't know why anyone would want the vault to come back. Oh, you're talking about the Disney vault. I thought you were talking about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence worries me because this sounds like the kind of decisions that artificial intelligence would make. And it's always bold storytelling, like Barbie, like Oppenheimer to a degree, even though I didn't care for it, which changes the game. And artificial intelligence will not only never deliver that, but it will never pick it when we're presented with options. And they're letting artificial intelligence make decisions on programming. All right. I'm going to not open it up again to questions until we get to the end because I don't want to slow it down again. And I'm so happy so many of you have joined today. Even if you're not a member, thank you for joining the stream and tuning in. All right, so we looked at the current state of Disney. Let's look at the few things they're doing to try and turn things around, and then we'll talk about the Apple situation, and then you can ask me anything you want. All right? So, big headlines. So they had the biggest headline came out the day before. Now, wouldn't it have been great if Bob Iger could have announced, oh, hold on, that was a big thing, Costas. Costas says Disney does have a huge issue when they are so dependent on their park in Florida, where they've spent the last 4 years making 50% of the public hate them. It's hard to recover when half the families in America actively root for them to fail. I think it's not only a political situation, but I think the problem in the Disney theme parks in Florida is a financial situation. Bob Chapek made it ridiculously expensive to go. He nickel and dimed you with in-game purchases, basically, and I think that's really hurt things as well, and people have to be on their phone for almost the entire trip. And then I think there's a real lack of attention to the quality of the experience. Too much construction, lack of upkeep, which I've seen chronicled online. It just doesn't quite have the same magic. And so I think those are also problems. I think they have the technology. They run amok, to quote Hocus Pocus. They ran amok with technology situations. And they were like, oh, let's micro-plan your day down to the minute. And it just sucks all the fun out of being in the parks. And so, I haven't experienced it for myself, but I've heard that from a lot of people. So yeah. Oh, I'm glad you like my use of gaming lingo. I don't care, Bear. I can be taught, to borrow a phrase from Aladdin. So yeah. It's really a bad situation. And I'm glad, Jojo Bell, you think that I'm correct. So that's a lot of why attendance is having a problem. All right, so let's talk about ESPN. So unfortunately, this story broke the day before. And when it broke on Tuesday, I had thought it was quite odd. It actually broke during the stream. And one of you said, what do you think of ESPN BET? And I thought it was Black Entertainment Television. I was like, did they merge somehow? What happened to Tyler Perry? But it's for betting. And so and I thought that maybe they go into more detail on it. And also, I kind of didn't want to cover it because of the Barstool Sports angle. I'm like, I don't want to wade into that toxic pool. But we're going to talk about it a little bit anyway, because I think it's important to the story. But I'd hoped they would further elaborate it on the call, and they did not. But that would have been a real nice announcement for Bob Iger to be able to make. But he couldn't do it. And I think that's because Dave Portnoy, who dominated the conversation on Tuesday, talk about spin. You got to hand it to him for that. He did spin the story quite well. So Dave Portnoy spun this whole thing on Tuesday and really captured how the story was being reported, because it was weird for me to watch it unfold. I was like, this sounds like it's embarrassing for Barstool Sports. But Dave Portnoy spun it into a positive. And I don't blame him. Of course you try and spin it into a positive. Okay, J-Lo doesn't know who Dave Portnoy is. So Dave Portnoy is a very controversial, I don't even want to go into the stuff that he's done. It might not be illegal, but it's certainly distasteful. And he built up Barstool Sports. And Barstool is now a whole brand that covers a whole bunch of stuff. And it's kind of like the Fox News of sports and entertainment. And he got to interview Donald Trump, it's like kind of a little right wing. It's a little toxic, that kind of space. And so that's what Barstool is, right? But, for instance, ESPN infamously aired the show for one day and were like, it's so toxic and so problematic for us, they immediately severed the contract. So there's a lot of viewership there, but they can't grow the brand or get more, they can't get into mainstream business culture because it's almost impossible to work with them. So that's the issue. And that was very much what Joe Rogan is a pretty good equivalent, Cosmics, right? Although, of course, what is he on? Spotify? Spotify has bought a ticket to ride. They're like, we're doing it. So anyway, Barstool partnered with Penn Enterprises. Penn Enterprises wanted to get into sports internet gambling, like DraftKings, and there's something else, right? But there's a couple online gambling websites that do quite well. Oh no, it's like DraftKings or something, whatever, okay? And so Penn Enterprises had hoped that Barstool would give them the brand recognition they needed to really make a dent in the online sports betting space. But unfortunately, it did not. FanDuel, thank you, Tammy. But it didn't. It didn't help them. So they went to ESPN, and Bob Iger said the only reason we did this deal is because Penn Enterprises was extremely aggressive in their pitch. Now, if you don't know what that's lingo for they are giving us a ridiculous amount of the revenue, of rev share. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was 50% or more. So that's what a very aggressive pitch is. They're like, we will just give you so much money for you to do this deal with us, you can't say no. And Disney didn't say no because they have a cash flow issue. And basically Penn said they probably showed them what FanDuel and DraftKings makes. And so, I don't know for sure if it's 50%, George, but it's something insane like that. And so they probably said, at the very least, you'll be having a ton of cash flow if you do this deal with us. Now, the only problem is that Penn Enterprises can't get into a deal with ESPN unless they cut Barstool loose. So they sold Barstool Sports back to Dave Portnoy for $1. Now, at first, Dave Portnoy didn't say that. Dave Portnoy said, I have bought back 100% control of Barstool Sports so that I can return freedom of speech to the platform. Because some of the talent had been fired for just being too toxic, that even Penn was like, we can't take it. You got to get rid of these people. And there had been some controversy over that. And when I had seen that headline, I was like, where did Dave Portnoy get enough money to buy back Barstool Sports? Because it was revealed that Penn Enterprises took like an $800 million loss on Barstool because they must feel there's that much more money to be made with ESPN. So I was like, that's nuts. So it's really a horrible, embarrassing deal. Basically, Penn Enterprises said, Barstool Sports is so useless and worth so little to us that we would rather take a huge multiple $100 million loss to get into business with ESPN. But they didn't just abandon Barstool Sports. That's right, Elia. They said Dave Portnoy not only bought it back for $1, okay, but he had to agree that if he ever somehow, if by some miracle some other company wants to buy Barstool Sports, 50% of that deal has to go to Penn. So that's how they could recoup some of their loss. Then he also had to sign a non-compete. He cannot get into betting. Barstool Sports cannot get into betting with any other company. So Barstool can only remain exactly as is, and it can't really be sold to anybody. So it's really going to have to rely entirely on ad sales. Speaking of ads, it all comes back to ad sales, baby. And let's see if they can sell any ads on Barstool. I mean, they have a lot of viewership, so they probably can. So that's what is going on there. Although he's apparently going to have to really rebuild the company, because I did find his video amusing about how he went into work and nobody was there. He said because they were lazy, I suspect those people kind of like soft quit or are contemplating quitting and didn't really want to be in a Dave Portnoy video. So that's probably why they didn't show up to work that day. But I do think that Penn probably let the company lag. Also, there's a lot of competition out there, especially with Twitter, the way Twitter's now operating, although I don't think those payoffs are going to last for very long. But BuzzFeed just said, we can't compete with the content on Twitter. You can read inane content anywhere. BuzzFeed is like the original shit poster. But now everybody can shit post and make money off of it. So BuzzFeed's like, holy crap, man. So the internet's really, it's interesting days. It's interesting days, okay? I mean, I've read some recent BuzzFeed BuzzFeed articles, and they really do feel like they were written. I mean, they're not even really writing them. They just have artificial intelligence mine tweets for like ones that are related, and they throw it up into a story. Although I will say, I sometimes do click on it. I'm like, let me see. You've arrived, Al Watch. I love that you announced it. That's hilarious. All right, so that was the ESPN headline, which I thought was real funny. I do also, the other thing I want to say is I don't understand why ESPN and Disney, by default, want to be in the gambling business. Disney has a very specific brand. And, what are they going to do when can they not see the headlines of the future of like, I lost all my house to the mouse? Like they call it the House of Mouse. What when someone says, I lost my house to the mouse? I mean, Billy Porter already just said that, actually. So I'm glad you're having a good time, Georgie Porgy, with your first chat. That's so cute. I love it. So I think that's a real problem. George Snelling said they might would you think they put gambling on their cruise ships? Oh my God, that's such a bad idea, but I bet they would. Oh my God, I bet they would, because you're stuck on the middle of a cruise ship in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the ocean. You might start gambling. I think it's really a mistake. Although Dr. Longmonkey says that they could potentially make billions. Billions with a B? Well, then maybe I would consider it as well. I'd be like, it's not Disney. It's under the ESPN brand. Thank you very much. All right. So I'd stick, you know what I'd do, Denzel? I'd slap ESPN on a cruise ship. That's what I'd do. That's how I'd fix it. I'd go, this is not a Disney cruise. This is an ESPN cruise. And I got to tell you, I immediately think that's a brilliant idea. I think there should be this is the ESPN Hulu cruise. I just put all the other, I said, this is a Fox cruise, and it is exciting and fun, right? I'd stick Avatar on it. I'd be like, you guys are going to have so much fun. This is the party cruise. And I got to tell you, this sounds like a cruise that would be instantly booked out. I'm excited about it already. The business part of me is excited. All right. That's right, Danny. The Kens would be all over. Ken from Barbie would be like, where's the ESPN cruise? Let's get on it. All right. I think it's funny that I started out this discussion saying this was a horrible idea and ended it saying billions of dollars. I have fun ways that I think we can do this. That's what it's like being an executive. You're like, that's the moral dilemma that you have to understand is inside even the most kind and truest of executives. They have to deliver revenue, and when they're faced with the opportunity of making billions, well then, gosh darn it, they have to find a way. All right, now let's talk about what's going on with Disney Plus. All right, Disney Plus is real bad. So Disney Plus, they announced, is going to have, I wish they had announced something else exciting to offset this, but they had nothing. So they said, we're going to increase the prices. So starting on October 12th, only for the ad tier. If you're fine watching with ads, God bless you. They need to sell ads. You can watch for $8 a month. But if you don't like ads, you got to pay. It's going up from Disney Plus is going up from 10. I almost dropped my makeup. I was playing around with my makeup. All right. So anyway, Disney Plus is going from $11. I don't deal with this $19.99 garbage. I round up the penny to what it really is. So Disney Plus is going from $11 a month to $14 a month. That's ad-free. That's a 27% increase. I don't think anybody likes ads, Jojo Bell, but they're less expensive. I gotta tell you, I watched ads on Peacock, and it was actually not a bad experience. I pay for almost all of the, my family does password sharing. Damn it, well, I hope that if we get cracked down on, I don't know what we're gonna do. But because of my job, because I can take it off my taxes, I pay for almost all the streaming services in my family, and I always sign up for ad-free. However, my parents were the ones who decided to do Peacock, and they were like, we paid for some ads. And I was like, what's this garbage when I put it on my television? I was like, I can't believe I'm providing you with ad-free entertainment, and here you are giving me ads. And I gotta tell you, it wasn't that bad. I thought the ads were very interesting. I thought they had variety. Like on Hulu, it's the same ad every break. I'm like, I can't watch this ad anymore. I just can't take it anymore. Peacock had a variety of fun ads that were longer and I think had better production values and were more interesting. And then they also sometimes had trivia. And I was like, I actually participated in some of the trivia challenges during the ad. And then I actually bought a product during the ad. I was like, that is a very attractive sneaker. And I bought it. So I got to tell you, Peacock has great ads. And if these other, especially as these prices start going up, I might consider some of these ad tiers. I was like, if your ads are as engaging as the Peacock ads, well then let me do it. That's right, Dwight Baldwin, it was a Vanderpump Rules quiz. And I didn't know the answer because I don't watch that show. Although I know some people do. It's very popular. Alexander Wilson says, don't forget that 80% of Hulu subscribers are on the ad tier. Yeah, ad tier is like pretty good. Tammy has experienced Tom Brady, every single ad on Hulu. Yeah, when I was watching Ms. America, they had the same ad every break. It was driving me insane. I couldn't stand it anymore. I stopped watching the shows live and I just waited until I could buy them the next day. I was like, it's just so awful. I can't take it. All right, so anyway, Hulu, speaking of Hulu, they're going up 20% from $15 to $18 a month. This is so expensive. This is just so incredibly expensive. And I don't know, and all the prices are going to have to go up. I don't see how this is feasible. And then they're going to do password sharing crackdown, just like Netflix has done, which has been effective for Netflix. And once it was effective for Netflix, everybody else is going to come on board and do the same thing. But, I mean, I feel like, here's how I feel. I feel as long as it's like not your extended family, but your immediate family, I think that's still okay. Like there's only like a certain number of people in my immediate family. I don't like to talk too much about my personal life, but there's only like a certain amount of people in my immediate family. I feel just because maybe me and like the people who aren't my parents don't live at home anymore, I don't see why we have to all have our own freaking accounts, quite frankly. I feel, it should be like you can password share up to 4, no matter where the locations are. That's what I would do. Maybe 5, because families with 3 kids are popular, right? But I feel like, the fact that every single home needs all their same streaming services is just too much to me. It's nuts. That's right, Ilya, like cell phone plans. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm still on my parents' cell phone plan. Maybe not after I just said that. Maybe I'll get in trouble. But yeah, I'm paying for all the streaming, man. I'm paying for all the streaming. I bet you I'm paying more. I pay for the HBO. I pay for the Disney Plus. I pay for the Max. I don't think they went rogue on their own Netflix plan. And then part of me was like, why aren't I on your Netflix plan then? Although I wouldn't be able to get my screeners. Screeners go through the Netflix account. But yeah, so anyway, I think like cell phone plans. That's what it should be like. I think it's nuts that, I think this is insane. I'll be very upset because I'm not sharing my passwords with a ton of people. I'm sharing my passwords with a very responsible small group of people that are actually my family. And so I'm going to be upset if we all have to now suddenly get separate accounts. Like for all of us to pay for Max or for Disney Plus, that's just nuts, man. At $20 a pop, and I'm paying for Hulu. Oh yeah, I also pay for, I think they're on their own Hulu plan too. I should get in on that. Why am I paying for Hulu? Oh yeah, I know, because I don't want to pay for ads. All right. Oh, but I got to tell you, $18, I'm going to have to think about it. And I'm still paying for cable because I can't cut the cord. So I'm a little annoyed about that because I might want to watch live TV. I guess I could watch live TV through Hulu, but I don't know. I'm not ready. I'm just not there yet. Although they're getting me there with these prices. All right, so wow. Let's talk about the Apple situation, and then you can ask me anything, okay? And thank you again, so many people, for joining today's conversation. We're having a very good time. That's right, Dory. I can't cut the cord. Let me ask everybody else so I cannot be alone in my shame, or maybe be even more alone in my shame. Do you still have cable? Now, I have cable also because it's part of my internet plan. Thank you very much. I couldn't have my internet plan if I didn't I have like a landline, but it's not even plugged in. You can't even call it because I'm like, it's so stupid. Okay, so anyway, do you still have cable? Yes, I do. No, I don't. I guess there's only 2 options. Oh no, yes, I do. I watch it. 1 second. And I really don't even watch it, by the way. Except when I DVR my reality TV, and also Amazing Race is coming back. Although I have been watching that recently on Paramount Plus, especially because Amazing Race airs at 9:30 at night, and I'm not staying up till 11 and starting my evening at 9:30. So I'll just watch it the next day on Paramount Plus. So another strike against cable. Yes, I do, but don't use it, and then don't have it. No, don't have it. Okay, there you go. You can vote. And by the way, you don't have to be a member to vote. Anybody can vote. Pastor Madeline, there are a lot of commercials on network TV, but I almost never watch anything live. I always watch network TV recorded, so I just fast forward. Look, it's 67%. Oh, I feel bad now. I feel bad. 67. Oh, I'm so ashamed. Let me see what happens when we get the rest of the breakdown. Oh, my goodness. Look, Raphael doesn't even know what it is. That's pretty funny, Raphael. What is this cable you speak of? That's very funny. All right, so let's look at the vote for a second. Oh, thanks for contributing for my cable bill, writer boy. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. All right, so everybody voted. Let's close it so we can talk about the Apple, and then I can open it up to everybody else. I have so much fun talking to you guys. All right, 66% don't have it. Oh, 2/3. Oh, the shame, the shame. 2/3 don't have it at all. Oh my God, I hope a lot of you are overseas, maybe. All right, but thanks for gifting 5 memberships, Mr. F. That's crazy. All right, 17% have it but don't use it, and then 16% use it. Have it and use it. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. All right, well, at least I'm not alone. At least a third of us are still together. We're still hanging out together, a third of us. Oh my goodness. Wow, that was funny. That was funny. Okay. Finally, let's talk about a potential Apple buyout. Now, I suspect, based on what I know, I'll just tell you something kind of funny. This is just interesting. I have a friend who I think knows some other people in the tabloids, and I think that my friend is like the person behind this whole Apple buying Disney discussion. I think it's like one person in the entertainment industry who has a lot of connections that keeps bringing it up, and everybody's like, maybe, you know? So I think that, I do wonder about that. I'm like, I wonder, especially because the Hollywood Reporter article that everybody picked up started with saying, a friend of mine said this. And I was like, that's really funny. I wonder if and I know that I think it maybe is the same friend. So I thought that was really funny. All right, so anyway, I was like, it would be amazing if this one person just willed this to happen. Hey, Ross, thanks for gifting a membership. That's right, Mika. It's been around. It's like a theory. It's true. I just think it's funny that this person is like maybe driving the talk, but other people, have, of course, surmised that it could happen. So if you haven't seen the Hollywood Report, I closed the poll, Polly. We just finished the poll. We'll do a new poll while I'm talking about, do you think that Apple should buy Disney? Do you think Apple should buy Disney? So the options will be, it's the only way, blasphemy, which I'm sure I'm going to misspell, blasphemy, and then not Apple, but somebody. Your chat's working there, Mike. But somebody should. Okay, there's the vote. My vote is blasphemy. I think the idea of anyone buying Disney is disgusting. And that's right. I said disgusting, and I meant it. All right, so the Hollywood Reporter said that companies are becoming too big. The conglomerates are becoming too big, and it's too difficult to compete in the same arena. And they said that no one will be able to compete with the sheer size of Amazon, Apple, and Netflix. And that potentially only Disney, if it were to somehow to combine forces with Warner Brothers and Universal. So even if Universal bought Warner Brothers, the idea is that that's still not big enough. You would have to add Disney to that to be anywhere near the size of Amazon, Apple, and Netflix. Now, the idea of Disney, Warner Brothers, and Universal, and Fox, because Disney already ate that, being one company, makes me want to throw up. I think that's just horrific, and that's just going to kill creativity in those businesses. I think that's just absolutely shocking. Now, my other question is, compete at what? I mean, Disney has tremendous amount of revenue when they're operating effectively. Now, what about if Warner Brothers were running effectively? If Disney and Warner Brothers were actually running at the peak of their performance capabilities, they would be huge. Now, I kind of have been okay with the idea of Universal buying Warner Brothers because Warner Brothers has already been gutted. I mean, the damage has already been done. But, Disney is a very different type of company. And also, I would like to point out that Amazon and Apple are struggling in the Hollywood space. Who cares about their sheer size? Oh, look at Casey getting a membership. Oh, welcome to the party, Casey. I don't understand what we're competing for here. Are we just talking stocks? Is the stock market going to run away to such a degree that it ruins what these companies actually are? Are they just like trading cards? And also, Bafe, you're right. Where's the monopoly? Where's the government to keep these monopolies from happening? There's supposed to be some kind of oversight here. It's just getting absurd. So the Disney brand, by the way, is very special. And that's why the company has always been in a special spot. It's not just a brand, it's a way of life. And that is something that Disney created and pioneered, Walt Disney himself. And that's something that hopefully, at least so far, the company has not been able to ruin. Although they're getting close. So I don't really see how anyone else could own Disney. For Disney to be a subsidiary, to me, seems absolutely ridiculous. And once you become a subsidiary, the owner cares very little about the quality of that product. They just want the product to deliver. So they will gut it, just like what's happening with Warner Brothers. Just like David Zaslav, who basically is Mr. Discovery, is doing to Warner Brothers. He's like just doing whatever. He's just like a mad scientist doing whatever he needs to desperately try and fix the company and reverse its cash flow issues. So if somebody buys Disney, they'll have the same thing. They'll be like, just rip it up. They don't care. They're not invested in it. They just want they don't want this item in their portfolio to perform. So that would be and I think that Disney, I think a lot of the Americana that defines us today comes from the 50s and 60s. And who created that Americana? It was Disney. Who helped with the World's Fair? Disney. A lot of the identity that Disney has, a lot of the identity that the United States has to this day comes from the Disney company, which is why they're having such blowback for changing it. And I don't think that they should have, I think that they don't realize, and I was talking to somebody the other day about why Barbie was so popular. And it occurred to us that Barbie is a little bit like the brand, the way it's presented in the movie is a little bit like Disney. And while the brand can, of course, be inclusive, the brand itself shouldn't be changed. Everybody, I think that's what Disney messed up. You want everybody to come inside of the brand. Everybody's invited to participate in the brand as is. As soon as everybody says, hey, let's start changing the brand, then you have an issue. The brand should not change. Disney is Disney, Barbie is Barbie. But the point is that anybody can be in Disney and anybody can be in Barbie. Anybody can be a Barbie and Ken, and anyone can enjoy Disney and be a part of that Disney magic. But you can't change what that magic is. You can't change the definition of it. Like you'll never have grunge Barbie because that's not what Barbie is. You know, you might have a comedic take on grunge Barbie, like weird Barbie is as close as you're going to get to grunge Barbie. And she's still very Barbie. So I think that's kind of like really important. And I think that that's the issue there. And that's another reason that Disney can't be owned by somebody else. It just can't be, you know? And that's why, you know, if some of you don't like the Disney brand or some of you don't like the Barbie brand, that's fine. Go enjoy another brand. That's why Warner Brothers has always done so well. Warner Brothers has always been the antithesis of Disney, as have their brands. You know, if you are not a Disney type person, go over into Warner Brothers for DC, Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, Godzilla, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, that's like the whole point of it. You know, no company can be everything to everyone, except I guess Amazon, but you know, that company has no identity. And so that's the whole idea, and that's the point of it. So I think that's really fascinating to me. And that's right, Mike, that's what the Bratz dolls are, but the Bratz are not, you know, part of the Barbie brand. So I do not feel, that's right, Pastor Madeline, Disney beware of the poisoned apple. So I think that would be a mistake. I just think it would be a really big mistake. So we'll see what happens. I think it's also very interesting that Bob Iger was made famous for buying things. He bought Pixar, he bought Marvel, he bought Lucasfilm. But he could end up becoming infamous for selling Disney itself. And that would be a really big mistake. And you can see what happened to those brands under Disney leadership. People used to feel that Disney leadership was the best thing that could happen to a brand. But that ended up not being the case long term. And I think, I think what's happened, you know, to Marvel Comics, for instance, has been horrible. And DC Comics. Both the comic book business itself has just been destroyed by Hollywood. Very sad. So we'll see what happens. And then also, of course, because Disney is means so much to people emotionally, who wants to buy that culture war? Do you think Apple really needs that? Do you think Apple really needs to take over and be like, hey, everybody throw produce at me? Like, why would they want that? So we'll see what happens. Disney, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm very curious. All right, so it's the Q&A section. I talked for 58 minutes about this. Woo, lot to say. All right, Jason, we're ready to go. Okay, so Q&A, try to keep your questions about this, but technically you can ask me anything you want. Jason says the Americana is dead. A third of the country hates America these days anyway. We used to have problems, but we were still on the same team. I don't think that's true at all, Jason. I don't believe that at all. I believe a lot of people are making money off of saying Americana is dead, and the fear-mongering and the hate clicks. Hate clicks get more clicks than anything else, unfortunately. But I believe that is that's a movement that people are capitalizing on. But I believe deep down that Americana is still very much alive, and that I think that everybody would like what I described. an Americana where everybody can participate. Now, of course, not everybody has to buy into Americana. That's why we have different cities and states. But I do feel that for the most part, people would like to believe that that Americana exists, you know? And I do feel that one of the precursors to our current cultural war was the gutting of Main Street by moving production overseas. But, you know, at the same time, consumers are responsible for that themselves because they wanted to buy things that were very cheap, but they couldn't be made for cheap within the United States. So once people stopped insisting on buying American and didn't hold that line, it's just a ripple effect. And then you destroy the middle class, and then you have the problem that we have today. It's starting to do a history lesson. Joseph says, hold on. Joseph says, Bob Iger is solely responsible for changing the brand. This is the core of all their problems today. The modern Disney does not understand the brand. I think other people changed the brand to Joseph, but I do agree that baby Bob Iger doesn't understand the brand as well as we thought that he did. Rodney, it's your birthday today? Happy birthday. Congratulations. I hope you're having a great day. It says, do you think Wish is going to, how do you think it's going to do? I could see the Marvels. I think the Marvels will not do particularly well, and I think Wish is probably not going to do very well if I had to guess. Sophia G says, if ad tiers are becoming so popular, then why not base the revenue that streamers make with those ads, plus take a small portion of the subscription fee of ad-free users as a new system for... Yes, Sophia, basically, Sophia's saying if ads are coming back, baby, there's your revenue, there's your rev share. Exactly. But, you know, until it's all ads, you know, it's very hard for them to say, you know, what ads are playing on what. They have to do away with subscription revenue, subscription-based services, and they have to move solely to ad revenue services. Dr. Longmonkey says, Apple managed to beat their bad publicity. They could help Disney. But did they? I think that Apple benefits from the fact that only a specific group really buys Apple. I think the people who really would have a problem with Apple are not their consumer. I think Apple certainly gets a lot of publicity, but the reality is that most people buy Android and Microsoft product, stuff that runs Microsoft. Hey, Dixon. Danny says, what will you do if you were CEO of this matter? As I said, Danny, I would fire everybody except for Kevin Feige. I'd fire the head of every single division. And I'd do it in one fell swoop. Stephen Turner says, Bob Iger's return is not going well for him between his and Kevin Feige's recent struggles. Do you think Disney should be looking to bring... Yes, Stephen, for sure. Oh, yeah, the poll results. Thank you, Bafe. And then I'll go back to the questions. The poll results are 66% feel it's blasphemy. The number of people who don't have cable. Only 66%, though. That's fascinating. I bet everybody who didn't vote blasphemy is not a Disney fan or a hardcore Disney fan. 23% feel it's the only way. 10% would like to be somebody besides Apple. But that's very interesting. Very interesting. All right, hold on. Alexander. Oh, that's a nice photo of you, Alexander. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Bear Like Fire. That's a funny name. These streamers need to cool it. I only subscribe for specific shows and the quality is declining. I think that's very true. Oh, I'm glad you like my political analysis, Jake. Thank you. Thanks, Danny. I'm glad my hair turned out. I appreciate it. Eric, I'm glad you're excited for the Marvels. I think the Marvels could really hit with a specific group, but the question is, how big is that group? Matt says Disney should reorganize. Buena Vista becomes the parent brand instead of Disney owning ESPN. I don't really know if they should do that. That's an interesting idea, though, Matt. Reorganization. Maybe they should compartmentalize more into the non-Disney space. You know, Touchstone, of course, used to be their non-Disney live-action thing. That's an interesting idea, Matt. I don't love exactly how you've suggested it, but I think there might be an idea there. Sadie Creekwood says, any update on The Acolyte? No, I have not heard anything about The Acolyte, but I'm very excited about it because I like that stuff. I like dark stuff, as you know. I'm Slytherin, baby, and The Acolyte's about the dark side. Sahil says, love how professional you are in your messages. It's refreshing to see someone who never belittles others. Your kindness makes listening to... that's such a nice thing to say, Sahil. Right back at you. I'm glad you feel that way. I try very hard to be that way. So I'm glad that you think that I do. Pacific Coast Highness says, the restrictions were lifted, so I think the studios should be in the movie theater business. That's an interesting idea. I don't know. Nobody's really making any money right now in the movie theater business, so maybe that's why they don't want to do it. But I don't know if they need that headache. I mean, especially because I don't think the parks are being particularly run very well right now anyway. Ricardo says, is the Deadpool 3 delay practically confirmed? Oh, that's an interesting question. Yeah, it was. They did not have Deadpool 3 on their schedule for the first half of 2024 movie, so some people speculated that meant that it was going to be moved. I don't think it's confirmed, but I think it means that they're considering it. I think they're close to the point of no return for having to move the movie. That's probably what it is. Babette, that's a great name, Babette B. What is the best Marilyn Monroe movie? Why is she such a legend, and do you think the mystery around her will ever be solved? Oh, that's interesting, Babette. What a refreshing, interesting question. I love being able to talk classics. I would say the best Marilyn Monroe movie, I think I really love How to Marry a Millionaire. That's maybe my favorite Marilyn Monroe movie. I think also Gentlemen Prefer Blondes is maybe also one of her most famous. And The 7-Year Itch is also, I think, a very famous Marilyn Monroe film. Marilyn Monroe, I think, was partially, well, she was almost in some ways like, she was like a persona, let's say. You know, she was almost like a real life Harley Quinn. You know, Margot Robbie was helped substantially by, think about it, Harley Quinn, Barbie, and Marilyn Monroe was like a real life version of that. You know, back in the day, I used to read a lot of biographies, and, you know, Marilyn Monroe really was a persona that Norma Jean created. And it was a walk, it was a way she looked. I mean, it was a caricature. And a very popular one. And she really did a good job creating it. She was very smart. She created a caricature that appealed to both men and women, and was like stood for fun. And she always was very funny. And she always was she really handled herself very carefully in terms of, you know, of handling her image and how, you know, she was very careful. If you watch her movies, you can see patterns to who her love interests always are. She always made sure to include comedy. She's always very self-effacing. Very much the way Barbie really had no skills in the Barbie movie, Margot Robbie's Barbie. That was very, very smart. So that's one of the reasons that she's so famous. Also because she died young and so mysteriously. That will always add to it. You know, just like Heath Ledger to some degree, you know, James Dean. And I think it's pretty clear, though. I think if you really look into her death, I think it's not that much of a mystery. And I think that her death is kind of tied with the Kennedys' deaths. And there was like a whole lot of playing around going on there, and, you know, crossing streams that maybe they shouldn't have. And I think the mob, you know, it's an interesting thing. You should look into it. But I think if you really pay attention, you can kind of see what happened. The real Randy Chavez says, what do you think of Disney releasing their best characters as NFTs? Would you be willing to come on the pod? Are you inviting me on your podcast? That's very nice of you. I really don't understand why anybody likes NFTs. I think I think they're ridiculous, and I'm surprised Disney would get into that business. Wait, I would love for the Warner Brothers store to come back. I love the Warner Brothers store so much, and I miss what the Disney store once was as well. I really miss those stores. I think they really added tremendous value to those brands. Heck, open a Universal store, man. I love those stores, and I wish they were still around. Daniel, we'll talk about the Writers Guild negotiations in tomorrow's stream. B. Weeb says, Americana never died, it just evolved with every generation. I think a positivity has kind of waned. And I think, you know, a feeling of America as a country singularly has waned. But, you know, that's for the other problems I pointed out about lack of middle class, you know, culture wars, stuff like that. I really do think it all boils down to lack of middle class. I feel very strongly about that. Al Watch says, shouldn't sell, but I don't know, maybe we can get Mickey and Iron Man emojis out of this. They can already have them. We already have those emojis. Lee Dawson says, do you think it's worth Disney bringing back the fee on Disney Plus for home premieres like they did with Mulan? No, I think people don't want that stuff. I think, you know, either it's subscription or it's a la carte. You can't do this middle ground. Johnny says, how many friends and family members do you take to movie screenings? You can only take usually one, and so I can't leave anybody behind. So that's why I usually see movies more than once, because I can't leave somebody behind. So I go by myself. And sometimes screenings are at a difficult time, or they're during the week, and also it's fun going with an audience. So I usually actually go to screenings by myself. Stephen Turner says, Bob Iger's return is not, I already brought that up. I already answered that. All right, let me go back here. Let me go back. I'm missing some questions here. You want a Taylor Swift movie, Simon? I don't know. I think she'd want to play herself, and she's not a very good actress. And I love Taylor Swift, but she just can't act. I'm sorry. Bruce Wayne says the Disney brand has been white-centric and catered to it, and that is problematic. Bruce Wayne, you're throwing out a lot of stuff here. I don't know if I totally agree with that. I think that, I think The Princess and the Frog was wonderful representation, and I think that's an example of doing it correctly. I think all of Hollywood was white-centric, and all of Hollywood is shifting, and just the question is, how do they do it? And I never heard that about Marilyn Monroe. I'd be interested to hear, the argument for that. Dory Does Voices says, Grace, if you could interview any 3 Hollywood actors, living or dead, who would you pick? Love your streams. Always make my workday more intriguing. Oh, thanks, Dory. I don't know. I don't want to pick anybody. I have to tell you, I'm often very surprised by interviews. I will often go into an interview and not feel like anything interesting is going to come out of it, and then I'm delighted. For instance, my recent Justin Simien interview, I only thought the movie was pretty good, who directed Haunted Mansion, but talking to him was such a delight and such a nice surprise. He was so interesting and had such interesting things to say, which also just goes to show that maybe you're good in a room, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can direct the movie. But I really enjoyed talking to him. And so I think it's just, I guess the idea is I never know what interviews would turn out the best. And I suspect I would be surprised as to who did. Anthony Molay says, Disney focused too much on IP versus building talent to create quality content to maintain IP and create new IP. I would agree with that, Anthony. I think that, what Anthony's talking about is that Disney focused too much on just extending current IP rather than hiring the talent needed to create new IP that would become new franchises. And I 100% agree with that. They're plugging in IP into the parks instead of building new rides from Imagineering, which would create something new, like Pirates of the Caribbean or Haunted Mansion. That's right, Denzel. Disney stores in the 90s were something special indeed. Erica says, pick one to sell. Pixar, Marvel, or Lucasfilm. Oh, Erica, I like your Oprah Winfrey picture. You asked that just like Oprah. I like how you're pensively waiting for the answer. Pick one to sell? All right, I'll play your game. I don't want to sell any of them, quite frankly. And they're all in my parks. I guess I'd sell Star Wars. Or maybe I'd sell Marvel. Maybe I'd feel Marvel was at the end of its... But I'd make so much money off of the old Marvel stuff. And I don't think the Star Wars theme park stuff has really worked out. So I guess I'd sell Lucasfilm. Jake M says, what's your second favorite Hitchcock movie after Rear Window? To Catch a Thief. I just watched it again the other day. And I was on vacation in the south of France, and I actually had a photo. There's a photo in the movie. Let me find it, because this was really funny. There's a photo in the movie where he is going to a restaurant where his old pals from the French Resistance work. And the camera pans, okay? And, hold on, the camera pans. And you could see, and I was like, is that Monte Carlo in Monaco? And I was like, I think it is. But I was like, is that the same place? And I was able to look and see that they had updated the buildings and everything, but it was the exact same place. And I had taken it from the top steps. Yeah, here it is. I had taken it from the top steps at the top of Monaco's main city. And there is, and so there it is. And you see how you see these little this thing here. So this is my photo, but you can see the movie. In the movie, they have this exact shot. And by the way, the mountains and the clouds look the same in the 1950s when they filmed it. But this little thing here, this little raised platform, looked the same. And I couldn't believe it. And so it was so neat to see that. And so I love that movie. And if you're ever in the south of France, or you ever have the opportunity, I would definitely go around there. I think it's an incredible place to visit. Heather S. has some Marilyn Monroe thoughts about the death of Marilyn Monroe. Oh, Carlo, I didn't react to the Continental trailer. I don't think, and it never trended, so I didn't feel bad about not reacting. B&H says, Grace, are you named after a B&H, the place where you can buy equipment? Do you think living legend Meryl Streep will win her 9th Golden Globe and 4th Emmy for her performance in Only Murders Season 3? Well, I have to see the final 2 episodes, but I think she's got a shot. She's really good on it. And then Jake Van Norden says, I know I watched another Meryl Streep movie the other day, Out of Africa. So good. I love that movie. Jake Van Norden says, aside from box office numbers, personally, how do you feel about the Marvels? Are you excited? So many people who are excited to see Monica again. You know, Jake, I would love to be excited about the movie. I feel it looks a little weak, to be honest with you, but I'm hoping that it rallies. Official Liam G says, for inclusion, Disney should simultaneously create new original animation and live actions with diverse leads while upping the quality of the writing. I agree. And they should spread it out. I think they should focus on 1 or 2 really good diverse projects a year. Mike says, should Marvel stop introducing new characters on Disney Plus? None of them have captured the public's attention. Is it the writing or something else? It's the writing, 1,000% the writing. And then Charlie Michael says, Grace, the saga, the comic saga. It is on hiatus. It's killing me too, Charlie. Read Fables. Fables is a great comic that came back, and I love that. Celestine, hi. I have not seen Special Ops the Lioness. I have some friends who tuned in, and they did not care for it, and so I'm not covering it, so I just decided not to watch it. But I hope you enjoyed it if you did watch it. And then Has Been David says, love all the business talk. Curious if you went to college or learned through working and independent study. That's a great question, David. I did go to college for this, but I do also study it, and I read about it, and I talk about it a lot, and also through my own experiences. You know, it really is, a perfect storm. And that's how you really learn about anything. You know, experience is really important, you know. I think, people constantly undervalue experience. Uncle Baby Billy says, Venture Brothers writers are better than the Rick and Morty writers. I don't know. I thought the Venture Brothers new movie was off track. I thought it really went off track, and I thought it was only okay. Tammy says, hey, Grace, just wanted to say thanks for all your hard work on finding topics for live streams when there is not a lot going on. We appreciate everything you do to keep us entertained. Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, 3 streams a week, baby. I'm doing it. We're gonna be live tomorrow. I'm sorry my washing machine broke. It made this week very difficult. Still not fixed. Let's see here. Anna says, do you think that these dry earnings calls are a sign that the strike has been successful? Do you think some of this discussion of conglomeration is happening because of lost revenue? You know, Anna, I think it definitely is partially the strikes, but I also think it's the culture wars and the wars with fans. I think that's all starting to take a toll. Miko says, in Oppenheimer, is Josh Hartnett's voice changed or dubbed in post-production? It doesn't sound like his own voice. Oh, it sounded exactly like him to me. Miko? Dre Film says, could it be that the idea of Disney is obsolete? What an interesting question. I think to some people it is, but it's always been. Some people have always disliked Disney. Disney is a very, very strong idea, and nobody's ever going to agree on everything, but I think it's an idea that appeals to billions of people, so it's very powerful. So I don't think it's obsolete at all. I think it's mishandled right now, and that's what's causing some of its problems. Brett Crandall says, agree with you on cost-cutting, making for less domestic-produced goods content, but it was less a choice of the consumers and more Reagan-era deregulation. Oh, that's right, Brett. Government has to step in. No one's going to do what they should. Everybody's going to do what makes them more money. You know, that's the government's job to have some kind of rules. I mean, look what's going on with the Supreme Court. Don't get me started. I mean, apparently you can do anything. You can be as corrupt as possible, and there's no repercussions. Whatever, man. Innovative David says, to your point, Grace, on brand identity and change impacting brands, what are your thoughts on the success of Barbie and Amy Schumer? Had Amy Schumer been placed in the equation versus Margot and audience reactions? I think Amy Schumer would have torpedoed that brand. I think she was a horrible choice for it. I don't even think Margot Robbie what Margot Robbie did was pick Greta Gerwig. Greta Gerwig was the right choice for that brand, and she did an incredible job. All right. I'll just do a couple more questions and then I got to go. All right. Did somebody gift something? MM92 says, "Hi Grace, love your videos. What would be your advice to students on how to write a quality film review critique?" Make sure you develop your own voice. I think that's very important. Poke says, "Grace, why don't you write more of your own comics? I would like to see it grow big." Thank you. Well, I'm not in charge of writing more Superbia. Boom Studios would have to sign off on that. Also, it takes a lot of work to write comics. It's a big job, actually, because it's a monthly thing. So that's one of the reasons that I haven't gone to that. And then also because I cover the comic book business, I've been told that I can't write for it, unfortunately. And so, them's the breaks. Catcheck says, I was 1999 in New York City and going to Disney Warner Brothers store. It was like stepping into Wonderland, magical. Yeah, those two stores in particular were incredible. I remember them very fondly. You just don't get better than that. Midnight Eye says, Genie Plus was all Iger's idea. Chapek only announced it. Iger seems to be using Zaslav's strategy on Disney. Why is Iger good, Zaslav bad? Doesn't Iger's actions prove that Zaslav was right from the start? No! I mean, they're both doing slash and burn. Zaslav isn't doing anything to protect his brand, which I think is a problem. And then Aneka says, I'm a huge Disney fan, but maybe people are now disillusioned by the idea of you can do anything and listen to your heart. Well, yeah, getting rid of the middle class. I mean, Disney really does represent the middle class. And so when you get rid of the middle class, that's really problematic. I think you still can do anything. I do think that you can. But, it's very difficult. It always has been. Whelm says, what do you think is a responsible budget for Marvel solo films? Iron Man 1 at about 140. In Europe, in whelmed opinions, it should be around 200. Well, for an Avengers level movie, yeah, I would maybe do 200 for an Avengers level movie, but I would like to bring it in at around 150 if I could for solo projects. Gamer on a Budget says, for MCU X-Men, do you think Mr. Sinister would make a better main villain rather than Magneto? I don't know. They got to do traditional when they start out, though. People want to see it done right. Babette says, how long do you think Branaugh's Poirot franchise will continue? Will A Haunting in Venice bomb next month? I'm not sure. It looked pretty good to me, actually. Maybe it'll do okay. If he can keep those movies cheap, and they do pretty well in theaters and on digital, he could keep making them. Jay Altman says, did you see The Last Voyage of the Demeter? I did not, unfortunately. I kind of messed up my screener schedule this week because I wanted to see Gran Torino last night with some friends. So that was when the Last Voyage of the Demeter screening was. So I'm just not going to be able to review it, unfortunately. What's blocked by the Q&A logo? Oh, the Q&A logo blocked the picture I was showing? Oh, I hope you did see it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel awful. Oh, it's still here. Let's see. I'm sorry. Is that right? There's a little bit of a delay. So there's the picture. Sorry about that. Okay. I'm so sorry. All right. Bobby Rosa says, hey Grace, just want to thank you for always being so kind and always speaking your truth. Me and my husband have been watching for a few years now. Oh, that's so nice, Bobby. Hello to you and your husband. And Mumra says, how do you feel Wish and Creator will do for Disney? I don't think Wish will do well, and I don't think Creator will do well. All right, I better get going. I'm sorry if oh, happy birthday to Lisa's husband. Oh, hey, Lisa's husband, happy birthday. And Daniel says, did you see that they are moving the Emmys till January? Yeah, we covered that in a stream, actually. And Tanya, happy birthday to you as well. I'm sorry I'm only seeing this now. Happy birthday. And who asked me that? Alien Moose Studios. I love Betty Davis. Love Betty Davis. Voice Inject says, Grace, do you like barbecue get-togethers? I don't attend that many in the city. We don't really do that in New York City. All right, so let me get going. Thank you so much. Okay, let me do quick shout outs. Creator is the Gareth Edwards movie with John David Washington. Thanks, Owen. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Owen. Okay, so just shout outs. What are you doing? Tomas has a headache in Stockholm. Hey, Mr. Magic. Always nice to see you on the streams. I hope you're having a great time in Portland. Dancing Dog 60 says, on my way home to the crowded Boston subway. Oh, good luck. George is photoshopping a toy photo shoot. That sounds fun. Daniel Haradi says, just got my accreditation for the Venice Film Festival. Oh, have fun. That should be fun. Venice is beautiful. Bye, Georgie Porgy. I'm so glad you enjoyed your time on the stream today. Charlie Michael is recovering from wisdom tooth removal. Yikes. Ricardo Sanchez says, Fringe Festival Month in Edinburgh. Oh, that sounds fun. I've never been. Gerard Floyd, are those birthday cakes mean it's your birthday? See you, Tomas. Let's see here. LL is back from Cairo, and you met Gal Gadot in Tel Aviv? Oh, that's great. Give her a hug. She's going to need one when Wonder Woman 3 doesn't happen. Hart says, putting some holographic nail polish on. Greetings from Turkey. That sounds really cool. Send me a picture, Hart. Cat Jack says, damn, I have to start my shift. Have a wonderful day, Grace, and you wonderful BTT sweethearts. What a nice thing to say, Cat. I hope you have a good shift. Greg Lazaro says, watching my French bulldog who is healing from surgery. Oh, that's so kind of you. I hope he's doing well. Well, Cosmix is heading to Pismo Beach tomorrow with some friends for 3 days. Oh, that sounds like a vacation. Bonsoir to you too, Wade Chadwick. Michael says, on my way to watch Oppenheimer for the 4th time. Greetings from Puerto Rico. Oh, I'm so glad you like the movie that much, Michael. I hope you enjoy it, your 4th viewing. Brett Crandall had his birthday yesterday. Wow, happy birthday. I hope it was a great day. While Mr. Sweet Tooth says, hey, Grace, watching from Kenya, Africa. Wanted to shout out to my friend, Jens. He is the one who introduced me to this channel. Well, thanks, Jens. Thanks for bringing Mr. Sweet Tooth to the party. Danny says, much love from Guatemala as always. Have a great rest of your day. And Dory Does Voices says, Leos Unite. Oh, I love it. That's great. And Gilberto says, just finished a bag of Skittles while watching your live stream. Oh, that's great. That's so good. That's right. It's a very rainy day, CJ. Ricardo. It's very rainy here in New York today, which always messes with my lighting. And CJ says, just walked in the door from Long Island. Oh, that's great. Hey, fellow New Yorker. All right, I better get going. I want to finish my Gran Torino review, and so I can post it. So I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I will do that stream because I want to have 3 streams this week. So tomorrow the stream will be at like 11 because I got to stop at noon. Tomorrow's stream will be 11 to 12, hard out at 12. Okay, everybody, bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.